By any measure, gold has become the benchmark by which we are judged. The gold standard, the gold medal, the golden rule. So it's only appropriate that we welcome the golden boy, Mike Kurtz, into the golden circle. Now, Mike and his wife, Shannon, came to San Diego from Minnesota in 1978, joining Western Video as a producer and director. He built his impressive skill set, and he would go on to work for nearly every production company in town. The fact that none of those companies exist anymore is just coincidence, I'm sure. He's directed local, regional, and national commercials, music videos, documentaries, training videos, and PSAs around the world. But his proudest moment may have been when in 1966, he and his senior high school classmates made a fan film called Batman at Washburn High. It is the earliest known Batman fan film based on the original television series, and only the third one ever. It now enjoys second life on YouTube, so be sure you rush home and get that watching it there, put it on your queue. But every Batman has his Joker, and for Mike that means practical jokes. Director and DP Cindy Erdman recalls his fondness for placing a rubber cockroach inside an Altoid tin and then offering that to unsuspecting crew members. JT, a local gaffer, loves how Mike often punked the lighting crew with his talking light meter, which was a microcassette recorder back then he used to play back pre-recorded lighting values as he scanned the lighting instruments. He had a toy slot machine on his desk, begging you to pull the handle, which I did one day and was doused with water. And rarely would a shoot go by where Mike wouldn't pop up on set wearing a pair of springy, googly-eyed glasses. But while Mike loves the practical jokes, he is not a joke. He is the real deal. Few people in this profession possess all the tools that make you a legend, and Mike is one of them. He's a wonderful writer, a terrific director, a top-notch editor, a phenomenal producer, and has forgotten more about cameras than most of us will ever learn. Mike's impact on the San Diego production community has been immense. I don't know anyone who remembers Mike who doesn't immediately smile and recall fond memories from their time working with him. In his 45 years here in San Diego, he has influenced countless crew members who in turn are influencing the next generation of media professionals. As his longtime friend and client Paul Zimmerman pointed out, if you ask production folks, do you know Mike Kurtz? The answer always starts with, oh yeah, Mike Kurtz helped me win. And certainly that is the case with me, and as I'm honored to be part of that Kurtz connection. He's a massive proponent of joining organizations and building relationships, and I sit on the board of the San Diego Media Pros because of him. He is a maestro at conducting his crew and cast in a way that respects the contributions of everyone on his set, and I try to run my projects the same way because of him. And Mike's mantra of don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, because when you do, your comfort zone grows bigger, has been a lasting influence on not just my production life, but my life in general. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the newest Gold Circle recipient, my good friend, Mike Kurtz.
Thank you. I guess I don't have to say anything more. What can I say? I think the Altoid gag with the plastic roach in the Altoid box, that had to be my favorite gag over the many years. And my last full-time gig in the community here, I went to work for the County of San Diego. Jan Caldwell, who some of you know, worked as the PIO for the Sheriff's Department, and I went to work for the Sheriff's Department in media relations. And that was my last full-time gig. And I decided that maybe it wasn't a good idea to put gags on my desk. Sheriff Gore would always come in and he would sit down and we would talk about his latest whatever. And I thought, probably not a good idea. And a lot of the people I worked with carried guns too. So that was not... Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the introduction. It's really a great honor to be recognized by the chapter. I started in the chapter in the early 1980s. Tony Rogers was, I think, the first chapter president, and he talked me into joining. And I've been very fortunate to be involved in this organization. I've been on the Board of Governors 3 times. I worked on producing the Emmy Award show 4 times. And I think I put in hundreds of hours over the years as a volunteer. And like Mark said, one of the big things that I've tried to do is to help others in their careers and to help move people forward in their careers. And I've been very fortunate, and not just honored, but fortunate to have my family involved in my work. My wife over here, we've been married 50 plus years, let me just say that. It's actually 53. She's been on the set. She's worked for me as a PA, and very fortunate to ride the gigs together. And it's people would figure out after a while maybe those 2 guys are married. And I think the best 4 years of my career were the ones that I worked with my son Nathan, who's over here, at Multi-Image Productions. He got started. He was working in a pet store. He was a manager in a pet supply store, and he lost his job. And I said, "Why don't you come on over?" And he rose to the occasion. He's done really well, and it was just a great opportunity. We traveled together. We worked on set together, shooting film. He was a clapper loader, and it was just a lot of fun. And my daughter-in-law, even, she's a Native American and a tribal member, and she was involved with a couple of training programs I did on policing Indian lands for the state of California. And whenever I did anything with Indians, I would always try to get authentic tribal members involved, and she did a great job. She's a good actress, too. She scared the heck out of a lot of people when we were doing a domestic violence scenario. And, getting ready for today, it was an interesting time to reflect back on my career. This has kind of forced me to lay in bed at night and go, I did this and I did that. And I really started my career back in the black and white days, black and white television, where they changed the lenses on the back of the cameras, and they were 2-man lift, they're big cameras. I went from black and white, shooting black and white film, black and white television, to today's digital age. Last month was hopefully my last paid gig, and I've retired, and I've canceled my website, and I'm just trying not to do any work anymore. And I did, as Mark said, I started my career back in Minnesota. And in the 60s, I have a degree from the University of Minnesota. And back in the 60s, I was very interested in broadcasting, and I went over to the local affiliate, WCCO TV, and I said, "How do you get started? I'd like to get a job here. This is so cool." And they said, "Well, if your mother or your father works here, that's it. Or maybe an uncle, and you'd start in the mailroom," and that was it. That was the only thing that was done. We had 4 television stations, and they said, "Go over to the public television station, KTCA, and you can volunteer over there." So I did, and I started as the floor director, and worked my way up, shooting 16 millimeter film, traveling around doing projects. And after graduation from the university, I got my time over with in the Army. A lot of you probably remember back in the Vietnam era days, everybody had to serve. And I was in that oxymoron, military intelligence. So I was never in combat, just operated my pencil and my paper. When I got out of active duty in the service, I went to work for Minneapolis production company. And we used to have, can you imagine in Minnesota, we're going to shoot a lawnmower commercial in the winter? So we traveled to San Diego amongst other cities, and it's like, oh, wow, this is really, look at this. Oh my, this is quite nice. So several of us relocated here in the winter. And I think I've been very fortunate to have survived for 50 years in a very difficult profession, very difficult. This has not been an easy city to work in at some time. And it's been very fulfilling. My last gig, I'll just mention real briefly, was very unusual. I went to work for Jan at the Sheriff's Department, and working for law enforcement on the inside is really unique. Going in and out of jails, wearing a bulletproof vest, going on ride-alongs, going on warrant services. It was really pretty cool, and I had a lot of fun, and made a lot of friends. We get together now for luncheons, a bunch of us old retired guys and girls and ladies. And over the years, I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of very famous people, and made mention of Star Trek. I had the opportunity to meet and work with Gene Roddenberry, Leslie Nielsen, Gary Sinise, Bruce Jenner when he was Bruce, Bob Hope, Scott Adams. I even met Mikhail Gorbachev. So I got, time permitting here, I see I got a few minutes left. Okay. Couple of quick stories here. Working with Leslie Nielsen, great day on the set. Came into work, he was going to do a couple of stand-ups for a bank. Our goal that day was to make some television commercials. His goal that day was to entertain us. He has a little gadget that he squeezes that makes fart noises. And I walked into the lunchroom, and there he is making fart noises, and it was amazing. It was one of the most fun days. He entertained us all day. And my Gene Roddenberry story, am I getting a wind up? My Gene Roddenberry story, I did a project up at the Griffith Park Observatory. We had the big telescope as a set. And it was cool because he was a B-17 pilot during World War II, and he was talking about how when he worked for Pan Am, he would be a pilot on all these long overseas flights. And that's where he came up with the whole idea about Star Trek. And people don't realize he wrote for a lot of television shows back in the day, but that was very memorable. And I worked with Gary Sinise. He was a wonderful guy. George Takei, boy, you remember George Takei? Couldn't read the teleprompter. We had to get it up within a couple of feet. He was very nearsighted. But I want to thank the Academy. I want to thank the local chapter and all the people that are honoring me today. And I really feel very appreciative to have survived in our industry for 50 years. And I think I'm out in 3, 2, 1, fade out.